Welcome to another episode of Mindful Drawing. This week, we're going to find our breath and find our motion to inhabit the act of making a stroke across the page, inspired by the drawing of the Shrike by Musashi Miyamoto. I would like to enter into that space of confident, singular marking on the page and use that through a series of breathing exercises and repetition to find relaxation and a bit of peace as we enter into this holiday season. Can we use these drawing exercises to have some calm, to have patience, the ability to step back and be aware of where we are and what we are doing, to witness our body's reaction so that we can be more confident in our action. There'll be no warm-up this week. We're just going to dive right in, find our breath, find that stroke, and make our marks. Come draw with me. Today, I'm just going to use the pen that's here, a nice little fine point felt tip pen, and any paper you have, sketchbook, pencil, pen, colored pencils, all fine. It's more about listening in and following along as we develop a technique of kind of repetition and expansion. And today, across from me, I keep painting, an ink painting by a Japanese swordsman and artist, Musashi Miyamoto. That is a Shrike on a branch, and I like to look at it because it just starts with a very simple, deliberate, and direct stroke. And so I think we can begin on our page, finding a comfortable position for the hand, the angle relative to your body that you can feel and make a very confident stroke. Just kind of flowing on the page there. And again, taking a breath in, placing the pen somewhere, and moving the whole arm just to create a swift and confident stroke across the page. And giving your eyes and body a little bit of time to absorb that and look perhaps for another place, another direction to test out that movement with directness, and breathe in and create that stroke. In this case, drawing towards, but another could strike away. Repositioning the hand with a few breaths, taking a strong breath in, and on the out, making that stroke across the page. Yours may follow in a similar direction to each other, or as I've been doing, just kind of striking across one another, finding new positions, taking a breath in, and on the out, just letting the pen draw across the page. This is kind of stabilizing us, getting us into the space of the paper, and making those first marks that are necessary to break into the emptiness. Breathing with our movement. Finding in our arm and our hand and our body the directions that may be comfortable to make confident strokes, and directions that may be awkward or challenging, and deciding for our practice here as we bring some of our mindful attention to the act of drawing, where we would like to bring our attention. Is it to that discomfort of a stroke that is perhaps in the direction that your arm is not used to moving or drawing? Or is it in the flow of an easier, clearer, more direct stroke? And in that exploration time, as you bring attention to the way the act of drawing begins to feel for your hand, for your arm, and for your breath, you may start to coalesce or align to a certain direction of drawing. Being right-handed and sitting at a bit of an angle, the pulling of a stroke across the page from right to left is working very smoothly for me. So I'm spend some time being aware of that, working with those strokes together, perhaps building a bit of bundling to that directionality, trying to maintain that rather quick and deliberate stroke across the page on the out-breath, allowing there to be some time in between each one to reposition on the page, regather the posture of the body, fill the lungs, and let that breath out into the space of the paper. And as I've spent some time warming up that attention, that connection between the medium, the instrument, and my extension out through my arm, and my breathing in this space of comfortable or confident strokes, I feel ready to spend some time in the practice of having that attention narrow in on the less fluid strokes for me. You can stick with the comfortable or take on maybe some of the challenge that lies in drawing in a less natural way. As we begin to feel a density here on the page, drawing against the grain, getting my arm and hand really involved, again, using the physical engagement and expressive nature of the participation of a larger portion of the body chain to bring our attention into the space of the body and a bit out of the space of the mind. An act of freeing with that confidence of motion, picking up on past marks, reinforcing them or subverting them as we draw continually over the space within the page. Breathing in to reposition the pen or pencil, and breathing out as it makes a mark across that space. And as this density begins to grow, I like to bring my attention into the time of contemplation that I share with the visual portion of my brain, as it's trying to find pattern or calculate the next space of the stroke, the next starting point, and keep that in communication with my breath. Allow a little space in between each one for the eyes to track and absorb, and then make the decision of placement with confidence, knowing, following my breath, following this practice of the motion of my arm will leave its mark. Each individual one, the expression of a moment of a breath, the expression of one act of the body, one calibration, an engagement here with an external medium, and just letting the eyes absorb and think what emerges from the accumulation or the whole. And it may be that the page is a tangle of a bit of chaos, or directions, grains, overlaps, or bundling have started to emerge. Any of those are the right direction, as our attention is on each act of making this mark through the confident stroke of ink or graphite, extending from an in-breath out through the exaltation of our entire being. And in this practice of using this device, the external space of a page of paper, and making a mark, creating a visual artifact for our eyes and our hands to work within, work around. As a focusing point in an emptying space, filling on the page this series of actions lets out some action from within us, leaving a little more space to wander around in the landscape or visual scape that emerges. Having all that attention on the placement of the pen and the movement of the arm. With these, I like to allow myself the time of a bit of arbitrariness, trusting the guide of my eyes as they pick a place, and that my arm in that position picks the direction, and I can be a passenger in witnessing the expression of a breath in my body out onto the page. And it gives us some space to kind of witness and be aware of where we might be looking for control, looking for the deliberate in the outcome of the expression. Can we take some time to recognize that potential desire in our creative work or in our meditation practice, to recognize it, reposition it to an inhabitation of the moment, trusting the body and the eyes to have the control that we may need to produce these marks, knowing that an accumulation of actions over time will result in something, but having these minutes or moments in a day where the something drifts out of focus and the attention and awareness of the action of creating fills our space. And as it may become more and more difficult to distance from the patterns that draw our eyes in, we can use that recognition to go deeper with repetition, finding a strong visual direction or collection of strokes and entering it with each breath. Bringing that attention back to the positioning of the body, the positioning of the hand and the pen, and the movement across a trajectory. The accretion of lines doing the work on the page, our only engagement is breathing in, placing, and making the stroke. Trying to let the breath just fall into its natural rhythm that we can watch, listen to, that we can move with without controlling. As the rhythm of our eyes position, the rhythm of our hand position, the rhythm of our in-breaths and out-breaths synchronize in a few moments here in drawing these strokes out from the page. And when we feel the density growing too heavy, or we begin to desynchronize from those moments, we can reposition to a new vein or trajectory that has emerged in the time we've been here drawing, and enter into that again, resynchronizing our rhythms here on the page. And it could be a nice time to try to switch to an offhand. As a way to interrupt the flow, or if you've got a nice evenness going, a good connection there between all parts of the act here of drawing, taking us out of our mind, but bringing us a mindfulness of self, then keep going with it. keeping in attention that speed of movement with the rhythms of the body. I find it very easy to get caught up and start moving much faster, maybe in seeing an opportunity for the next stroke before we finish the last. We're just in the mindlessness of certain repetitions. And can we be in that space of attention that allows us to connect all those pieces? Practicing our awareness, practicing our nowness, practicing the letting go of the time before and the time next, being here, being now, with that one confident, direct stroke. And perhaps there's a drawing or painting or sculpture or other creative expression that comes to your mind as you think of that single strike, motion, or action, either accumulated or found isolated. I like to meditate on the work that I mentioned earlier, the Shrike. Just a few strokes of ink, patiently calibrated, expressing clarity of action, made possible by a practice of a lifetime of attention to the moment of action, being in the time, for a chance to have that influential creative expression. And I hope we can share a few moments of just quiet drawing into this space, continuing the practice, or coming back into your own space and letting all of the other factors of the room and the day, the sun, perhaps the road, the wind, your posture in the chair, the drawing you have in front of you, your cat or friends or partners around you. And as that all comes back into our senses as part of what is here now, what is influencing us and giving us a space to inhabit, and just take some time to visually inhabit the drawing and see what you might enhance, draw into, maybe just step back from and let it be. Keep following the patterns as you listen out to the sounds As you breathe in the smells, perhaps let a little air drift through your mouth and taste what might be happening. As you feel your hand on the paper, or your fingertips on the pen, or the texture of the medium. Your feet on the ground. As your eyes pull in the color, shapes, texture, and tone, or maybe look away and re-see the room with the eyes fresh from this small world we've created together on the page. Whether yours has any resemblance to mine is not very important. Becomes your space on the drawing. Approach the end of this practice. Begin to wind down the drawing. Just come back into our posture a little bit. Take a couple of moments to be thankful for the time here, and I hope everyone is going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Maybe a little time to practice more personal and creative drawing, if possible. I'm glad you all could join, and hope you have a wonderful week and safe travels. Thank you for joining along, and I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. These practices give me a space at least once a week to find that centering and that calm, to practice my love of drawing, and to share that with others like you. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up below and leave some comments. Let me know what you're doing with this, how it has influenced your practice, or if there's anything you'd like to see covered, perhaps a medium, something fun to express. I like to experiment a little bit, and these are wonderful places to do it, as the drawings come out with confidence but no consequence. I wish everyone safe travels during this holiday season, and if you celebrate it, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. See you next week. Draw well. This Rooks is fun. Signing off.